All right, so I am going to read, this is for the literary analysis class, The Much Ado About Nothing, so that if you don't have another option for hearing this book, you can hear it that way. So, Much Ado About Nothing. Here is a list of characters. And I was actually hoping that we could watch a video on this or something, because there's a few good ones out there, but because of the current situation, I can't really get a hold of anything like that. So here we go. Starts out with William Shakespeare. I have a story with an all-star cast set in Sicily in times long past. Beatrice and Benedick, the heroes of my play, battle with words and wit every day. But I have a plan to unite the two that is intended to entertain you. So join me, my friends, under Messina's sky as Signor Benedick and his troop draw nigh. These valiant soldiers were returning from war, and all of Messina was in an uproar. Everywhere excitement flared as entertainment was prepared. Leonato, the governor of the town, was there to greet these men of renown. Hero, his daughter, stood by his side, and the thrill in her heart could not be denied. Beatrice, his niece, was also close by. A look of pleasure sparkled in her eyes. You can see they're all labeled. 3 people that have been mentioned so far. As sounds of approaching horses grew loud, a rousing cheer echoed through the crowd. Don Pedro, Prince of Aragon, was in the lead, riding proud on his dappled steed. Benedick of Padua was the next they spied, with Count Claudio of Florence by his side. Don John, the prince's brother, was the last to appear, with his attendants brought up the rear. The prince dismounted without delay. Leonato, do you come to greet trouble today? He gave the governor a hearty embrace. Leonato smiled. Not trouble, but comfort, your grace. I think this is your daughter, said the prince, bowing low. Leonato laughed. Her mother hath many times told me so. Benedick smirked. Good sir, was there doubt in your mind? To Beatrice, this exchange was becoming unkind. She thought Benedick was obnoxious and rude, and disliked his behavior and attitude. Still talking, Signor Benedick? No one listens to you. And a heated argument began to brew. Whenever they met, these two struck the wrong chord, and their stinging insults could not be ignored. Benedick's remark was no less forgiving. What, my dear Lady Disdain, are you yet living? Is it possible? Beatrice sneered and let out a sigh. With Signor Benedick to mock, Disdain should die. Benedick bragged. I am loved by all ladies except one, for truly, he continued, I love none. Beatrice countered each insult blow for blow. I had rather hear my dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me or be so inclined. Benedick jeered. Keep your ladyship in that frame of mind. I would my horse had the speed of your tongue, he taunted. I know all your tricks, she replied, undaunted. Don Pedro interrupted. Leonato's asked us to stay. We'll remain here at least a month from today. Then, to Leonato's, the royal group departed. Claudio remained, with Benedick feeling light-hearted. My friend, Claudio exclaimed, his eyes aglow, did you take note of Leonato's daughter, Hero? She is the sweetest lady that ever I looked on, he sighed. I see no such matter, Signor Benedick cried. If her cousin Beatrice did not hold such rage, she would outshine Hero on any stage. Claudio, I think your mind's in a haze. Hero's too short and tiny for such great praise. Would you buy her, my friend? Now don't be a fool, Claudio sighed. Can the world buy such a jewel? This lovesick behavior put Benedick in a stew. I hope you have no intent to turn husband, have you? Claudio persisted. I want Hero in my life. I would marry if she were to be my wife. Benedick turned up his nose in disgust. Has it come to this? You should readjust. Claudio, can't you see you are acting insane? Shall I never see a bachelor of 80 again? Just then, Don Pedro returned in dismay. What is the cause of your delay? Why didn't you follow to Leonato's place? Benedick replied. I will be candid, your grace. Claudio's in love, the foolish man. To marry Hero is his ludicrous plan. The lady is most worthy, Don Pedro replied. Benedick rolled his eyes and continued to chide. You say she's worthy. I disagree, and these feelings fire cannot melt out of me. Don Pedro gave Benedick a playful shove. I shall see thee before I die, look pale with love. With anger, with sickness, or with hunger, my lord, Benedick began. Not with love, he roared. Don Pedro chuckled. These thoughts you'll revoke, then you'll be the target for many a joke. I will trust no woman, Benedick began. I shall always stay a single man. Then to Leonato's Benedick took his leave to confirm their attendance to supper that eve. Claudio turned to Don Pedro and implored, "Hath Leonato any son, my lord?" "No child, but Hero. She's his only heir. If you love her, Claudio, do not despair. Cherish Hero if your feelings are true. Shall I talk with the lady and her father too?" "I'd welcome your help," Claudio replied. "With my words she might be dissatisfied at courting. I believe you have more skill." So the prince offered a plan of his own free will, to make you the light in Hero's eyes. "I will assume thy part in some disguise, and advise your lady I am Claudio instead. Then with passion and flair I'll ask her to wed. When I win Hero's heart by my cunning design, I'll speak with her father, then she shall be thine." While Claudio wished good luck to his master, there was another who craved Don Pedro's disaster. This man, so resentful, angry, and withdrawn, was the prince's half-brother, the sullen Don John. On opposite sides in the war they had fought, Don John the loser was very distraught. He despised the prince, victorious in war, and desperately wanted to settle the score. Conrad, his follower, offered Don John advice. "Conceal your feelings, or you'll pay the price." "I had rather be a canker in a hedge," Don John sneered, "than a rose in his grace to be revered. I am a plain-dealing villain, so let me be. I cannot hide what I am, seek not to alter me." As Don John paced and continued to fume, another of his followers entered the room. Borachio announced, "I've overheard a secret plan of a possible marriage with your brother's right-hand man." "The most exquisite Claudio?" Don John sneered in reply. "Tell me, Borachio, who has caught his eye?" "Indeed, it is Hero, the governor's daughter," he said. "The prince will act the lover, so Claudio can be wed." Don John snickered. "This information I can use. It adds fuel to my desire. Now Claudio may lose. He took all the glory in the last campaign, but I'll make sure his triumph has been totally in vain. Come now, will you assist me?" Don John implored. Conrad answered for them both, "To the death, my lord." Meanwhile, at Leonato's a dance would soon commence. For the guest's arrival, everyone waited in suspense. "Was not Don John here at supper?" Leonato began. Antonio, the governor's brother, said, "I don't see the man." Beatrice interrupted. "Don John always looks so sour. I never can see him, but I am heartburned for an hour." Hero agreed. "To melancholy he's inclined." Then Beatrice droned on about marriage and mankind. "Don John's like a painted picture and says nothing at all. Then there's Benedick, whose chatter drives me up the wall. Midway between these two is the perfect mate." Leonato warned, "Niece, you'll never have a date. With your sharp tongue, how can you hope to be a bride?" "I never wish to marry," she sternly replied. "Each day I give my blessings that this may remain the case. With my luck, I'd get one with a beard on his face." Then came the sound of fanfare, and everyone clapped. Everyone cheered. They all donned their masks as the revelers appeared. While the music played, they paired up 2 by 2. Behind the disguises, no one knew who was who. Don Pedro wooed Hero with loving words so sweet, and proposed for Claudio so the deed would be complete. Ursula, Hero's servant, was dancing to and fro with Leonato's brother, the old Antonio. And Margaret, another maid, was whisked off her feet by an unknown fellow who was swaying to the beat. Benedick, standing near, watched this scene unfold. Then he approached a lady in a manner bold. It was his rival, Beatrice, hidden in disguise. Behind their masks they stared into each other's eyes. To avoid detection, he altered his speech and changed his tone into a high screech. "I overheard a conversation," he began to wail. "They say Beatrice is scored and her jokes are stale." "Will you not tell me who you are?" she implored. "Not now," Benedick replied as his voice soared. "And who told you that?" Beatrice continued in a huff. "I'll bet it's Benedick. You know him well enough." Benedick muttered, "You'll have to pardon me. I do not know this man Benedick. Who is he?" "Why, he is the prince's jester, a very dull fool. His only skill is contriving slanders and ridicule." Benedick burned with rage and felt his face turn red. "If I meet him," he replied, "I'll tell him what you said." Do, Beatrice scoffed, "but I can foresee Benedick will counter with a joke about me." Then Beatrice motioned him with a sideways glance. "Come, we must follow the leaders of the dance." Meanwhile, Don Pedro had played Claudio's part, and with eloquent words had won Hero's heart. But Claudio knew nothing of this consequence. As the dancers dispersed, he waited in suspense. Don John and Borachio watched him pacing in a trance. To avenge the Count, this was their perfect chance. They approached Claudio, but called him Benedick. "I'm worried," Don John lied. "The prince is lovesick. He's fallen for Hero, but she's no equal for his birth." Claudio's face grew pale and lost all its mirth. "How do you know he loves her?" Claudio cried. "I heard him vow he'd marry her," Borachio replied. When the two departed, Claudio was enraged. "Don Pedro courts for himself. I've been upstaged. In affairs of love no friend can be trusted. Farewell, therefore, Hero." In her he was disgusted. A few moments later, Signor Benedick arrived. "Claudio, is that you? Your hopes are revived, for the prince hath got your Hero," Benedick declared. "I wish him joy with her," Claudio glared. "What's your problem?" Benedick asked in dismay. "Do you think he has mistreated you some way?" But the prince's good deeds the Count would not believe, and in an angry frenzy, Claudio turned to leave. "Poor hurt fowl," said Benedick when he stood alone. Then he thought of Beatrice. "Her words I can't condone. I wonder if she knew it was me in disguise. Did she speak in jest to ridicule and chastise? Or was she unaware and meant the words she spoke? Does she really think that I am such a joke? The prince's fool? Ha! I am not so reputed." These are her bitter words and must be disputed. Just then the prince appeared. "Hero's father has agreed. I must tell Claudio his wedding will proceed." Benedick replied, "My friend thinks he's been deceived. I told him she consented, but I was not believed." Don Pedro interrupted. "Hero loves him true, but the Lady Beatrice has a quarrel with you." Benedick groaned. "Oh, she cannot be endured. Beatrice speaks daggers and will never be cured. She dared to call me the prince's jester. I tell you, Don Pedro, I really detest her." The prince chuckled. "Here she comes, my friend." Benedick exclaimed, "Command me to the world's end." The sight of Beatrice filled him with dread, and with a hasty goodbye, Benedick quickly fled.